Dallas in July is the kind of city that never slows down, not the traffic, not the heat shimmering off the pavement, and certainly not Iron Peak Fitness, the sleek gym on Commerce Street where the mirrors were polished every morning and the treadmills never stopped humming. Sam Rivera had worked there for 6 years, and in that time he had built a reputation that most trainers only dreamed about: patient, relentless, and quietly brilliant at seeing potential where others saw none. Sam was tall and lean with calloused hands and the kind of easy smile that put nervous beginners at ease the moment they walked through the door. He had trained marathon runners, recovering athletes, and once, a 67-year-old grandfather who went on to complete a half triathlon. But nothing in Sam's career had prepared him for the Tuesday afternoon when Priya Kapoor walked in holding a crumpled flyer and wearing sneakers that had clearly never touched a treadmill before. Priya was 31 years old, a software analyst who worked 12-hour days in a downtown office tower, and she had carried extra weight most of her adult life. She stood at the front desk quietly, clutching that flyer, scanning the room full of sculpted bodies and clanging weights with wide, uncertain eyes. The receptionist pointed her toward Sam, and she walked over with the careful hesitation of someone who already expected to be turned away. "I want to get stronger," Priya said simply, meeting Sam's eyes without flinching. "Not skinny. Not perfect. Just stronger than I am right now." Sam studied her for a moment, then nodded and extended his hand. "Then let's get to work," he said. It was one of the shortest intake conversations he had ever had, and somehow also one of the most honest. The first week was humbling for Priya and surprisingly moving for Sam. She struggled with basic squats, her breath came fast on the lightest cardio, and twice she had to sit down and collect herself after a set. But she never complained, never made excuses, and every single time she caught her own reflection in that big gym mirror, she lifted her chin just a little higher. Sam noticed that. He noticed it every single time. The trouble started in the second week. A cluster of regular gym members, a group of men who spent more time flexing between sets than actually training, began making comments just loud enough to be heard. Snickers about Sam wasting his time. Jokes whispered near the water fountain. One of them, a broad-shouldered man named Derek, actually stopped Sam in the hallway and said with a smirk, "You're really going to make that your project?" Sam smiled back calmly and said nothing. But his jaw tightened. Word spread the way it always does in a place like Iron Peak, fast and unkind. Other trainers began raising eyebrows at Sam's session schedules. One colleague pulled him aside during lunch and suggested, with what she seemed to think was friendly concern, that working with someone like Priya might damage his brand. Sam set down his protein shake and looked at her evenly. "My brand," he said quietly, "is results. And we're just getting started." Priya, for her part, knew exactly what was happening around her. She wasn't naive, she had spent a lifetime learning to read a room. But she made a decision somewhere in that second week that would carry her through every hard morning that followed. She decided that other people's discomfort with her presence was their problem to solve, not hers. She put her earbuds in, turned up her playlist, and showed up every single day. Sam designed a program around what Priya's body could actually do, not what it was supposed to look like. He started her on resistance bands and bodyweight exercises, slowly building the foundation of strength that most people skipped in their rush for visible results. They worked on form obsessively, the angle of her wrists, the alignment of her spine, the way she breathed through each movement. Progress was slow and invisible to everyone except the two of them, and that was exactly how Sam wanted it. 3 months in, something shifted. Priya was no longer winded after the warm-up. She was deadlifting weights that made her smile in quiet disbelief, holding planks that would have been impossible when she first walked through the door. Her posture had changed, she moved through the world with a solidity and ease she had never known before. And one evening, after a particularly grueling session, she laughed out loud in the middle of a set, a pure and startled laugh, as if her own body had surprised her. It was during that same week that Sam brought up the idea almost casually, as if he had only just thought of it, though in truth he had been turning it over in his mind for weeks. The Dallas Regional Strength and Conditioning Invitational was 4 months away, open to non-professional athletes, and it included a powerlifting category with weight divisions. Priya stared at him like he had suggested she sprout wings. "A competition," she said. "Sam, people will stare." He nodded slowly. "They already do. The question is what you want them to see. Priya didn't answer that day. She went home, sat in the dark of her apartment, and turned the idea over and over like a stone in her palm. She thought about every time she had made herself smaller to fit into a room. Every time she had apologized for taking up space. And somewhere around midnight, something that had been tight inside her chest for a very long time finally loosened. She texted Sam one word, "Okay." He replied in seconds, "I was waiting for that." The next 4 months were the hardest and most transformative of Priya's life. The program intensified structured periodization, nutrition tracking, technique sessions that sometimes ran 40 minutes past the scheduled hour. Sam pushed her precisely and thoughtfully, never past injury, never carelessly. He also shielded her as much as he could from the gym's ongoing commentary, though he couldn't stop all of it. What he could control was what happened inside their sessions, and inside those sessions, Priya was becoming something formidable. When word got out inside Iron Peak that Sam had entered Priya in the Invitational, the reaction was almost theatrical. Derek laughed so loudly in the free weights section that heads turned across the room. Someone pinned a mock competition bracket to the break room corkboard. The gym manager called Sam into his office not to discipline him, but to quietly suggest that perhaps he was setting his client up for public embarrassment. Sam thanked him for his concern, stood up, and walked out. The morning of the Dallas Regional Invitational arrived cold and overcast, the kind of Texas morning that felt borrowed from another season entirely. The convention center was packed, athletes in matching team gear, coaches reviewing notebooks, spectators with coffee cups and camera phones. Priya stood at the warm-up area in plain black shorts and a blue tank top, and she was trembling slightly. Sam stood beside her, not saying anything for a long moment. "Then, you've already done the hardest part. Everything you had to prove, you proved it to yourself months ago. Today is just the receipt." When Priya stepped onto the platform for her first lift, the hall was loud and indifferent. Nobody in that audience knew her name or her story. She chalked her hands, set her feet, and breathed the way Sam had taught her, slow and deliberate. Then she lifted. The bar rose clean and steady, and when she locked it out at the top, the judge's flag went white. A short, surprised ripple of applause moved through the crowd. She stepped back and exhaled, and for just a moment her eyes found Sam's across the room. He was already nodding. Priya placed first in her weight division. Not second, not a respectable third, first, with a total that placed her among the top performers of the entire amateur category that day. The announcer read her name and her score, and the applause that followed was real and full and entirely unprompted. Back at Iron Peak the next morning, the break room corkboard had a new piece of paper pinned to it, a photograph of Priya holding her medal, printed from the competition's official social media page. Nobody admitted to putting it there. Sam never said "I told you so," that wasn't who he was. But he did frame a copy of that same photograph and hang it in the corner of his training space at Iron Peak, right next to his certifications and his clients' success stories. Priya came back to the gym the following Tuesday, same as always, earbuds in, chin up, ready to train. As she passed Derek on the way to the squat rack, he stepped aside without a word. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let anyone else define the ceiling of what you're capable of and keep showing up until the whole room understands that.